Interview, Part 3. Thanks again for those great thoughts. Let's talk more about words. I think you said that when circumstances change and needs change, the meanings of words can also change?
Yes. And let me also add that new words are also constantly being created by people. Some end up in dictionaries and some don't. Let me give you some examples. Recently, I was on another interview and I heard people say YOLO and things being ratchet. These words were being used by many younger folks, and when I asked, they said YOLO meant you only live once and ratchet, something or someone vile or nasty. But back when I was named and put in a dictionary, these words did not exist. Google did not exist either, and now Google is a common word that can be a noun or a verb, like Googling something or someone. I'll bet you anything that the people listening to this interview know a bunch of words that started to be used a short time ago. How these get invented or named can be a matter of a popular song or movie where the word is mentioned, and then all it takes is for people to share it and start using it. As you can see, there can be an endless stream of words that enter the vocabulary.
I really had not given that too much thought. I guess I'm distanced from some generations and too much in my own little world. But I can also see how many new words can enter our vocabulary with globalization, which is accelerating. Just with foods, for example. I remember growing up where we would scoff at the idea of eating raw fish. To use your word, that would have been ratchet. But today, we eat sushi. And even in supermarkets, there's like sushi everywhere. Same raw fish, new name, new perspective. Come to think of it, pop culture might be a good source of words. Rappers can be quite influential in promoting words that were never used before or didn't exist before. And then their fans acquire those words and start using them in their daily interactions with others. The other day, someone I was talking with responded to me and said, cap. I was kind of startled and had to ask what that was. Turns out people started using cap to mean lie or BS. They explained no cap means for real. I guess I was being told I'm a capper, a liar. I did Google the word the other day, and it's a word that is being widely used by new generations. I'm sure there are hundreds or even thousands of new words being created all the time as things are changing so fast.
That's probably true. I've seen some new names pop up. So the idea is that we can create new words, acquire new words from other parts of the world, or even invent our own definition of an existing word. The important thing to keep in mind is that it is up to us to keep the meaning useful. Use the word as a tool to take care of a need, to help you do something. That's when your attitude matters. Once you realize you can choose the meaning of a word, wouldn't you choose one that is helpful and positive?
Choosing an attitude, well, that in itself is an activity, right? I have to define exactly what attitude I should take on so it can help me invent a meaning that is useful for my needs. Does this sound like a path forward to help solve the fear and negative association with failure? Any tips on doing this?
Definitely, Robin. You're on the right track. I have suggested people could simply change their relationship with words. Yes, like with other people, pets, or valuables, people can have a relationship with a word. Without a relationship, the meaning of a word itself is transactional, rigid, like an agreement that cannot be renegotiated. Changing that relationship can be a first step that will help you move forward by establishing a relationship that is more flexible and deliberate.
I like that analogy a lot. The relationship with a word and having a more flexible way of thinking about the meanings so we can take control instead of being controlled.
That can be a good reinforcement of attitude to change the relationship with words, which helps with the next step, which is defining your own meaning for a word that is not serving you well. Make it a tool that works for you, not against you.
Yes, in fact, over the years, we choose the friends we keep, and sometimes we let go of those that are judgmental or unreliable. We decide who we spend our time with. Sometimes you have to let go of friends. I guess it could be the same with our relationship with a word that is no longer useful.
Robin, have you heard the story of the two frogs?
I don't think so. What is it?
Here goes. A band of frogs was traveling in the dark of night, and 2 of them fell into a deep well. At dawn, the frogs above the well counseled the 2 frogs, yelling that there was no hope. The well was too deep. They loudly recommended that they should give it up and not waste their energy trying to escape. However, deep in the well, the 2 frogs proceeded with more than a few attempts to leap out. One of the 2 frogs gave up. The other frog kept trying, leaping and learning. The frogs atop wondered why this frog was still leaping and continued to shout their advice to just give up. Finally, one of the experiments worked for the trapped frog, and leaping higher, it finally made it out. When the rest of the band asked, "Did you not hear us?" the frog replied, "Not really. I could not hear what you were yelling. I have a hearing problem. Actually, I thought you were encouraging me and cheering me on." What is the moral of this story? You can always turn a deaf ear to the inner critic. Other people's words can prevent you from leaping out if you let them seep into your mind.
I love it. I'm pretty sure our listeners will remember this story. It's great. Going back to the knife analogy, it could be like choosing to make it the surgeon's knife that saves lives instead of a dagger that can stab you in the back. I'm thinking that the sharp edge will be similar in each case, but we could take responsibility and choose the shape of the blade and the type of handle. Think how a small blade and handle is useful for a surgeon and a heavy handle and blade for a hunter. We can decide deliberately to create a tool that is intended for a specific need and make it useful for that need.
That's a good one, Robin. Or you can even make up a completely new word that can help you be more in tune with your own unique idea of what the tool should do for you.
I like it. I think this would be a great challenge for the people listening to this interview. Maybe later we open up a contest to hear what words they invent. If they invent a meaning that is useful to them, then they would deliberately be choosing not to be walking in the shadow of someone else's words.
Exactly, Robin. By the way, I know you're the one asking the questions, but I just remembered a question that might be helpful to strengthen this idea for your listeners. It's a story from the Buddha, asking someone, if you, Robin, were to buy a gift for someone and that person decides to not receive it, to whom does the gift belong?
Well, if they choose to not receive it, I guess it would belong to me, right?
Exactly. So, to your sticks and stones rhyme earlier, if one uses a word to judge someone and that someone decides to not receive it because the word is not useful to them or doesn't match how they define it, then words could not hurt that person. If a judgment doesn't stick to a person, then who does the judgment belong to?
Our view of the world is truly shaped by what we decide to hear. William James.